It is 5:30, so I will call the meeting of the Historic Landmark Commission to order. If we could have a roll call of members, please.
Alan Barnett.
Here.
Stephen Cornell. Oh, sorry. Babs DeLay.
Hello, here.
Carlton Getz.
Here.
Emily Kearns.
Here.
Mark McGrath.
Here.
Taymor Semnani.
Here.
All right. We have a quorum. Just some usual comments, especially since we have new guests tonight. As a reminder, this is an open public meeting. Comments are recorded and become part of the public record. If you do make a comment, please be sure to speak closely into the microphone so that your comments can be recorded for the public record. If you hear yourself in the background, it means that you're probably close enough. It's next on my list. If you do have a public comment or a comment on any of the agenda items during the public hearing session tonight, you can, of course, submit a public comment card to a member of staff or to the chair. They're located on the table right outside. However, I will also call for any public comments for each agenda item as well. With that, the report of the chair, I have nothing to report for this meeting. Thank you very much. Would the vice chair have anything to report?
No, nothing to report.
All right. Report of the director or staff. Does staff have anything to report?
No, but it's good to see you all. It's been a while. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. With that, we will go into approval of the minutes of our last meeting in April 2026. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. I will go down our list. Commissioner Barnett,
Yes.
Commissioner DeLay,
Yes.
Commissioner Kearns,
Yes.
Commissioner McGrath,
Yes.
Commissioner Semnani,
Yes.
and I will vote yes as well. So the minutes for the April meeting are approved. With that, we will move into our public hearings this evening. And the first item on our public hearing agenda is the application for National Register nomination consideration for the 10th East Senior Center at approximately 237 South, 1000 East. The staff report on this item will be presented by Diana Martinez.
Good evening. My name is Diana. I have been with the city almost 5 years, and tonight is my first time coming before this board, so it's pretty exciting. So thank you. I can take it. So tonight we're going to start with the 10th East Senior Center, which is at 237 and 239 South 10th East. It is on for consideration for the National Register nomination listing. Oh, and I bet you want to see that.
Sorry, the click share. Oh, there you go.
Okay, sorry. Excuse me, and I have a hoarse voice tonight, I'm sorry. So this is a consideration for a National Register nomination. The Utah Historic Preservation Office, or SHPO as you know, received a nomination to add the 10th East Senior Center to the National Register of Historic Places listing. Salt Lake City is a certified local government recognized by the state's National Register Review Committee. Therefore, the Historic Landmark Commission's recommendation is considered for this nomination of this building. A few facts about the property. There's two addresses, 237 South, which is the lot which has the building on it, and 239 South, which has Victory Park on it. That's seen on the first map on the left. Both are currently owned by Salt Lake City. The building on Lot 1 was constructed in 1963. The nomination is nominated under the criterion A and C for entertainment and recreation and social history and architecture, meaning the work of a master. The building was designed by Birch Ball Jr. and Paul Limon. Changes to the building are only one that was built in 1983 on the southwest corner. So the evaluation criteria is 5 characteristics that you should be considering: integrity, description, significance and context, facts and sources, and supporting materials. A few facts about the National Register. Listing on the National Register does not place any restrictions on an owner's ability to alter or demolish a listed property. The 10th East Senior Center is not located within a local historic district, nor listed as a local landmark site. It would not be subject to any local preservation standards found in the Historic Preservation Overlay Zoning District. And the last thing is, anyone can nominate a property for listing on the National Register. Here's some photos. These are all in the nomination and my memo. The left picture is a shot from the southwest, looking east, kind of an east-northeast. The one on the right is from the northwest, kind of looking southeast. The one on the left is that 1983 addition that was mentioned before, and the photo on the right is the front door that's kind of head-on from the west, looking east. So there are 3 suggested recommendations that staff has identified and would like you to consider in order to consider this. And if they are considered, we would like them to be changes made to the final nomination. The first one is that the 10th East Senior Center property actually does consist of 2 parcels of property, one being the one with the building, the second one being the one with the park, Victory Park. Both addresses should be included in the nomination. The Senior Center is the main one, address 237, and of course the park is 239. The total acreage of this site should be reflected at 3.86 acres. The second recommendation that we would like you to consider is adding to the summary paragraph the following language. The 10th East Senior Center is currently considered a non-contributing building because it was constructed outside the period of significance in the Salt Lake City East Side Historic District boundary increase. With this listing, it will be considered contributory and is currently listed as contributory in a draft RLS update currently being prepared by Salt Lake City for the East Side National Register District. The listing provides details of the site's historic integrity and significance. Or delete the original sentence altogether. And the third one is the nomination includes a period of significance as 1963 to 1976. However, the building was constructed in 1963 and reflects the architecture of the period. There was an addition to the building constructed in 1983, but the design of the addition was complementary to the original structure. So therefore, staff recommends stating that the period significance is 1963 rather than that 13-year stretch. Finally, the next steps. So tonight, the Historic Landmark Commission may forward a recommendation on the nomination to the State National Register Review Committee. That committee will be meeting on May 21st to review the nomination as a whole. Upon approval, nominations are sent to the keeper of the National Register at the National Park Service. Thank you. Any questions?
Do any members of the commission have questions for staff? All right, seeing none. I assume that we do not have an applicant present to speak on this topic?
We do not. The author of the nomination is not here.
Okay.
There are probably going to be plenty of people to speak to this. We have received a lot of positive comments in regards to it.
Okay. Thank you. I meant to address this a moment ago, but with respect to the public hearings, when we do have public comments, typically the applicant has the opportunity to speak for 10 minutes if they so choose. After that, members of the public can address the commission for 2 minutes, and staff will let you know if you're approaching your time limit there. The applicant would have a chance to respond, and then we will move into executive session where the commission will discuss amongst ourselves. So in the absence of an applicant, we'll move directly into public comments. I do have a couple public comment cards to start. The first one from Cindy Cromer.
I am still Cindy Cromer. Oops,
I don't think it's on. Is the light on?
the green light is on. So we turn it off and turn it back on. Use my teacher.
There we
oh,
go.
Now, that did work. So the last time I spoke publicly about Birch Beals building for the senior center, I was looking at county commissioners who wanted to close the building. So tonight is a vast improvement. First, my compliments to the consultant, Adrian White, who is probably watching us. Secondly, my thanks to the planner, Diana Martinez, who has identified several issues which emerged while Adrian drafted the nomination. She nailed it, in other words. I'm going to try to clarify those 3 issues. First, the address of the building is 237 South. The park property, which has a rich history of recreational uses, is 239. To understand what happened here, you really need to have both addresses in the nomination. Secondly, the city received the draft survey for the neighborhood, the update for the National Register District, since the nomination process began for this building. It makes sense to update the language to state that the building, which was non-contributory in the previous survey, is now contributory to the updated survey for the district. And thirdly, the period of significance. The range of 1963 to 1976 was a direction from SHPO. I would have preferred 1912, and I'm being uncharacteristically compliant in supporting SHPO's recommendation. I do want to share with you one thought, and that's one of my favorite light bulb moments in this journey. It was when I realized that the private tennis club from 1912, where Wallace Stegner played, protected the land for later public acquisition and public use. This space was not developed as housing because it was a private club. Thanks.
Thank you. I have one other comment card on this agenda item from Brad Howes, I believe.
Good evening, welcome.
And if you would state your name as well.
Brad Howes,
Thank you.
and I live at 825 Marquis Avenue, just around the corner. And I just want to say, I grew up right next door to Birch Beal, the architect who actually did that building. And I just want to say that I support 100% for this to be a historical. And I know that Birch, even though he's not with us anymore, I know he would support it as well. This was a guy who, in this valley, put in a lot of time and a lot of thought. He came here from another state, made his home here, raised his children, and supported this valley for many, many years. This building that you're in right now, he helped redo this whole thing. And I just hope that you all consider that in realizing that Birch was a guy who really cared about his community, and he would be honored to have this be on the historical register. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments that anyone would like to make on this public hearing item? All right. Hearing none and seeing we do not, oh, Yes, please. Please state your name for the record as well.
Hi, I'm Robin Taylor Granda, and I represent Preservation Utah. I'm the Historic Properties Programs Manager for Preservation Utah. Do you guys want my address as
No.
well? Okay. So we just wanted to say that we're very pleased and wanted to complicate all the hard work that went into the research behind this property. And so happy to see the groundswell of support that went behind this once it became known that it was perhaps going to close. We're absolutely 100% in support of this being on the National Register and to recognize the work of Birch Beal. I absolutely admired Birch Beal and had the opportunity to see a lot of his work and to get to even do a tour of this building with him in the 90s. I admired him just so much, and so I'm very excited to see one of his buildings being on the potentially be on the National Register. So we just wanted to, make sure it was on the record that Preservation Utah is very excited by this potentially being on the National Register, and hopefully also see in the future that it will have some sort of also long-term protection as well. Thank you.
Thank you. My apologies for missing you. Does anyone else have a public comment on this item? All right. Seeing that there are none and that we do not have an applicant to respond, we will close the public hearing portion and move into, or the public comment portion, and move into executive session. Does anyone on the commission have any comments that they would like to make with respect to this?
I thought that the staff recommendations were quite good. I thought that the part about it not being contributing in the previous survey seemed to me irrelevant, and so I did think that was a good recommendation. It's kind of like addressing a temporary situation in a National Register nomination that will be the official record of this building for decades to come. So, and it's really irrelevant because if it is listed on the register, then it's on the register. So, I think just eliminating that would be my preference.
We had a similar thought, right? Do we keep it in and add another statement in there that it will be contributory, or just take it all out? Because to your point, completely. So if you all do make a motion, will you be clear on just striking any previous status designations and staff's recommendation?
So that's what I would suggest. Also, the period of significance. I'm not sure what to think about that. It's that 13-year period is awkward, and I think it's just based on a 50-year. I'm assuming that's what it's. There's nothing magic about 1976. I'm assuming, except that that's 50 years ago, and I'm assuming that's why it was chosen. Do you know, Michaela, if that was the reasoning? Because nothing happened with the building in 1976 that changed anything. So I guess it does make sense to me to just stick with that 1963 date because
right. That's kind of what we're thinking too, and I guess the committee at the stake can hash that one out.
Yeah. I also, and then I thought making a stronger case. It took me a while reading through the nomination to realize that the nomination included the park, because so much of the information is about the building itself. And so including both addresses would be a way to make it clear that we're also talking about the park, because the nomination also sets the standard for if someone is looking at this property in the future as to what is significant and what is not significant if changes are going to be made. And if it's not clear that the park is considered a historic part of the property, then then I think it risks being altered in a way that would destroy the history that it has. So, yeah, I like those recommendations.
Any other comments from the commission? All right, seeing,
Sorry, I'm just trying to think how to formulate this. So I guess I'd like clarification on the newest RLS is going to include this. The city's designation does not include land. Is that correct? Or does it touch and concern the entirety of the parcel?
The city bases our status as, well, this isn't under a local historic district right now, but we're resurveying, and it's taken a very long time. That's another long story that we'll tell you at a meeting, hopefully in the next couple months. But right now, SHPO's records, it's a non-contributory building. Part of a separate effort that we're doing right now, it will become a contributory building. It will be in an updated period of significance, but until that is submitted in a National Register nomination update, it's not official. Okay. So what this effort is just a separate listing to give all kinds of information about this site, which is composed of 2 parcels. And that will go to the federal government, and it'll go through a process with other comments at the state, and then the feds will review it and, hopefully likely just designate it as contributory and record this listing at the federal level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Then the benefits that the designation confer for the National Registry, one of them is a tax benefit that doesn't apply to the city because it's a nonprofit entity. The only other benefit that I could think of was opportunities for grants. Is there, and it's, to me, it's clear that this wouldn't restrict any changes to the building the way that even our own designations would restrict it.
Correct.
With the exception that our designation doesn't change what we can and can't do with the land versus the building.
Correct. Like, this is owned by the city. We could demolish it, but this is truly just to capture the history of this site, and to provide this site, or I guess to formalize and write down and honor this building and its history and record that in perpetuity. Yes, there could be, there could be tax credits, but because it's owned by a public entity, they'd have to be syndicated, et cetera, et cetera. So really none there. Mostly honorific.
So just for clarification, our job here is to forward a recommendation for or against this to the city council, right?
No, to the state committee. I forgot.
Oh, to the state?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
To the committee. That's the next step.
The State National Register Committee.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
The State National Register Committee, with any other additional comments. And Diana went over our comments, like make sure the nomination has 2 addresses listed.
So our recommendation would also include any comments that we had, which could be the ones that the staff recommended.
yeah, that would be part of the motion
Yeah. Okay.
if it were made.
Thanks.
Okay, any other comments from members of the commission? Seeing none, do we have a motion? If you want.
I would be happy to make a motion if I can work it out here. Based on the information listed in the National Register nomination form, and the information presented and the input received from the public hearing, I move that the commission finds that the 10th East Senior Center appears to meet the National Register criteria and recommends its listing to the Utah State Historic Preservation Office and the National Register Review Committee with the following comments. And those comments are that the address of we think that the address of the park should be included in the nomination explicitly, and that the language about the current non-contributing status of the property be removed from the nomination. And what was the third one? Okay. Oh, yes, and that the period of significance be restricted to 1963.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We'll go down the list. Commissioner Barnett,
Yes.
Commissioner DeLay,
Yes.
Commissioner Kearns,
Yes.
Commissioner McGrath,
Yes.
Commissioner Simnani.
Yes.
I will vote yes as well. The motion passes. I will simply add that as an engineer, it's the architects that get all the glory. All right, we will move on to our next agenda item, number 3, which is a zoning map amendment and general plan amendment at approximately 140 B Street and 272 East 3rd Avenue. Just as a reminder for the commission, there are actually 2 separate action items associated with this agenda item. And presenting will be Grant Iman. Did I pronounce that right?
It's Eamon,
Eamon.
Grant Eamon.
Sorry.
No, that's totally okay. If architects get all the glory and engineers are snubbed, wait till you hear about planners. Just kidding. Anyway, good evening, commissioners. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate all the work that you guys do. I will be representing the request for the general plan amendment and zoning map amendment here at 140 B Street and 272 East 3rd Avenue. The subject property is located on the southeast corner of B Street and 3rd Ave, as you can see there on the left. There are 2 properties
Can you
subject
hit
to
the click share, Grant? Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, now you can see. All right, yes, as you can see, there are 2 properties, 2 individual lots that are subject to rezone, but there are 3 buildings that exist on those 2 lots in total that are impacted by this request. The general plan amendment and zoning map amendment will require approval by City Council after your recommendation, as well as Planning Commission will also issue a recommendation. The intent of this rezone is to convert a single-family home into a commercial retail building along 3rd Ave. The subject property is currently in the RMF 35 zoning district and requesting the mixed-use 2 zoning district, one of our new mixed-use zones. This request, while it is straightforward, you'll see this presentation is comprehensive, and that's because although the request is straightforward, there are some serious repercussions that might result as the process goes on, and it's just important to consider these things. So if there's anything that you want to go more in depth on, please let me know. I'm happy to go back and discuss that further in detail. Staff has reviewed and compared the project against the standards of approval and found that the project is not compliant with the requirements of the zoning ordinance, and staff therefore is recommending denial with the stipulations indicated in the staff report. This is the existing site. We have to get, in order to understand this proposal, we have to get familiar with this site. And anybody that's in the Avs knows the Ellerbeck Mansion is a beautiful historic site located there on the corner. And I'm going to start there and kind of work through the site because I think that's where a lot of this process begins, at the Ellerbeck Mansion. It's a legal, non-conforming commercial use operating as a bed and breakfast. It's been operating for over 25 years, and the city loves it. We support that. The use will be unaffected by this petition. Next, as you move through the property there along the eastern edge, there's a parking pad, and that is just to accommodate both parking for the mansion as well as for the cafe. And that leads me to the next building on the site. This cafe is existing on the same lot as the Ellerbeck Mansion. It is a legal non-conforming cafe. The use is also unaffected by this petition. It opened in 2022. Now, the crux of the application today happens as we move just to the property to the east, to this building, which is 272 East 3rd Avenue. It is a single-family home. It was abandoned by a previous owner and purchased and renovated by a third party in 2023. And then it was purchased by the applicant and used as a short-term rental. It was then enforced on in 2025. And then the applicant proposed the expansion of the existing cafe. So you can see we're kind of keeping the operation between a bed and breakfast. I think we can see why a short-term rental was on the property. And now we can also see the cafe portion as well. So anyway, that's the property as a whole, and the request is in that. So the request is for these two property addresses to be rezoned from RMF 35 to multifamily 2. The intent of the rezone is to align the zoning with the commercial use, right? To bring it up to that commercial use and to convert that house into retail space. And then, yes, our staff recommendation is negative. The first request of this application is the general plan amendment. The general plan amendment is sort of the guiding document. They haven't been updated in a while. We are working on that. But as it stands, this is the guiding document for that area. The future land use map is a portion of that plan, and it sort of outlines what should the future land use look like. As you see highlighted there, the entire block there and surrounding area is designated by the future land use map as medium density 8 to 20 units. It doesn't say it here, but it's residential. It clarifies later on. Well, I guess you can see it on the table, but that's a residential designation. There's no commercial designation or even mixed use designation in that. This portion is not consistent with city plans, as I'll discuss shortly. The second request is a zoning map amendment or rezone for both properties. And here's a map indicating their zoning district and the surrounding zoning district, which is also residential multifamily 35. Here is the surrounding neighborhood, the surrounding context for the property. This is exactly why we love the avenues. Lots of beautiful arrangements and historic properties that just add so much character. These are our commercial amenities in the area. Here's a map indicating the other amenities and commercial uses that exist in the immediate vicinity, including cafes. And then here is what those amenities look like. Finally, the last piece of our context here is the historic significance of the property. This is where you guys come into play. The Historic Landmarks Commission, obviously the main point of this discussion should be focused on the historic significance of this site. And it's historically significant. The Ellerbeck Mansion is historic and contributing to the Avenue's local historic district, as is 272 East 3rd Ave. It's also contributing to the Avenue's local historic district. This indicates that both structures are historically protected and under your purview tonight. All right, now into the request and the comparison between the existing zone and the desired zone. This is a list of all permitted uses between the existing residential multifamily 35 and the proposed MU2 district. As you can see, RMF, maybe you can't see, RMF stands for residential multifamily. It's a residential district, not a mixed-use district. The MU stands for mixed use. As you can see, the majority of the differences are going to be commercial uses. And here's that continued. We can go through and look at any if we desire. Because the request today, as with most zoning map amendments, come with a proposal, right? But the reality is that we're not necessarily tying this to a proposal. Your recommendation today is for the zone, right? The zoning district. And that's significant. That's important because the zoning district enables this property in the future, 40 years down the line, to anything that's permitted within that zoning district. So it is important that we take a look at the zones and what's appropriate for this property after it switches hands, after the property is sold or any future scenario. Perhaps the most significant one here is listed on this page, which is the short-term rental use. And I will discuss that a little bit more, but short-term rental is not allowed within the residential multifamily district. Obviously, a lot of this operation is bed and breakfast, and it's approved right now currently as a bed and breakfast on that Ellerbeck mansion. This would be a substantial change if in the future these owners or future owners wanted to utilize the space for a short-term rental. This rezone would enable them to do that. It is obviously worth considering that their current proposal does not include that short-term rental. Yes. All right. Key considerations. First are the city goals, right? The city has guiding documents that sort of lay out the guide for the uses in the city and whatnot, and we have different policies for that. Each of these plans have different focuses, and most of them actually call for neighborhood retail. Neighborhood retail is something that can really benefit a community. There's a reason why we're looking for more of that mixed use. But more of the goals of these guiding documents support housing. Housing is the backbone of our city. Housing is essential. And so these city plans are a little bit in conflict between, the support of neighborhood retail and that strong desire for housing. Business districts are very supported and maybe less on individual properties. Here is that future land use map again. All right, consideration 2, housing loss. The zoning code ordinance has a unit replacement process that is newly adopted, and it's part of this rezone process. You'll see it a lot of times with our rezones when they're demolishing a building or demolishing housing that exists. The code has this unit replacement process to be able to sort of replace that unit, right? If housing is such a focus and if a developer comes in and wants to demolish a house, it is crucial to replace that house, not only in size, but also in affordability as well. And that affordability aspect is a large part of that unit replacement process. However, this is a unique scenario because this property is within a historic district. The demolition of this site, not likely. Therefore, the building itself is still existing. There's no current request to demolish that building. However, the code doesn't mention this difference. The code doesn't speak to losing units due to the change of use. This building, if this moves forward, would no longer be functioning as a single-family home. It would be functioning as a cafe. Or an expansion of the cafe. This would take it off of the market maybe forever. The council would need to determine how to mitigate the loss of that. And again, that would be up to the council to decide, but that is definitely a factor that the city council would be considering. A fee doesn't match removing a unit for the established neighborhood. The average home price in the avenues is $800,000. This house was bought for $480,000. It's a reasonable example of naturally occurring affordable housing. 42% of the housing stock in the avenues is single-family homes. And owner-occupied as well. All right. Consideration 3 is the community benefit. Now, it's sort of a 3-tiered approach there in the current existing rezone code. That first being that unit replacement. The second portion of that is a community benefit. The community benefit's actually first. The community benefit is required by the code. It's a new requirement by the code. And it stipulates different community benefits that the applicant may select from to be able to move forward with their rezone. The applicant has selected to provide commercial space for local businesses or charitable organizations. The business is personal and run by them. These benefits here are difficult to enforce because they aren't zoning related. They've proposed annual donations to local nonprofits or community organizations, as outlined here. No official partnerships or agreements exist as far as the date of this presentation, but the applicants listed these organizations with whom they have existing relationships. Staff did not receive any comments from these organizations about the proposed donations. These applicants are proposing that the local business for which they will be providing commercial space is the one they currently run next door and wish to expand. While the community would gain another commercial amenity for which there is mixed support, this proposal positions the applicants to be the primary beneficiaries of the community benefit proposal, which does not meet the intent or the standards of section 21A.50.050.c. The pledged donations to local nonprofits and community organizations, well, not explicitly a community benefit category outlined in that section, is generally in line with the intent of the ordinance. However, it is staff's opinion that the donations pledged are not proportional to the increase in land use potential, nor do they mitigate impacts on neighboring properties and the loss of the existing housing unit. Next, are there any precedents for this request? There is one similar request. It was this building, 865 South 500 East in the Central City Historic District, not in the Avs. This was proposed in 2022, a little bit ago. There was the proposal to convert a single-family house to a retail space, pretty similar. That applicant did propose a backyard ADU to offset that housing loss, right, that unit loss. However, eventually City Council did deny that proposal. It should also be noted that our decision tonight and the City Council's decision does also set a precedence. Precedence is important, and whatever the precedence is for not only converting a historic building into a different use than exists historically, but also, yes, just what that precedent would be for other locations. Next is that short-term rental use. I talked about this a little bit earlier, but nothing would stop them from turning this house into a short-term rental. From the time the applicants purchased the newly renovated property at 272 East 3rd Ave in 2024, they did use it as an Airbnb short-term rental, which is not permitted in the RMF 35 zoning district. A lot of homeowners are not aware of this regulation in Salt Lake City. However, the applicants were reported to civil enforcement in July 2025, and subsequently they changed the Airbnb listing to allow rentals of 30 days or more to come into compliance with zoning regulations. The applicants initially applied for a zoning map amendment with the intent to allow them to continue operating a short-term rental out of the house, which is permitted in the MU zoning district. After planning staff made clear that we would not support a zoning change to permit an Airbnb, the applicants modified their proposal to the current cafe proposal. As short-term rentals are a permitted use in the MU2 zone, approving the zoning change would allow them to continue using the house as a short-term rental in the future. And if not them, a future owner. Therefore, planning staff recommends that if the ordinance is adopted, the development agreement should include a clear provision that the house on 272 East 3rd Ave not be used as a short-term rental. Public comments. We have received a number of public comments. I'm happy to get more into those. I'm assuming some of the public here can speak to those. But just briefly, generally the public leaned in support of this project. Cafe 140B is a beloved business. It is a walkable retail neighborhood use. It's in high existing demand. Those that were opposed mentioned the housing loss. They mentioned that Airbnb, right? Having a short-term neighbor is difficult for residents. They mentioned parking and traffic. Trash, as you can see here, they utilize the individual trash cans. They also mentioned commercial creep. The operation of this operation is currently contained on that Ellerbeck property. And then they mentioned the impacts on the historic district as well. All right, Next, and we're getting there. Consideration 7 is parking. We can definitely talk more about this. Parking was the most frequent concern cited by residents. However, I'll be a little bit quick with it. Salt Lake City's Transportation Department reviewed the applicant's proposal and stated that the proposed angled parking does not meet standards and cannot be approved under that current proposal. The Transportation Department also recommended a parking analysis to assess the ability of surrounding streets to meet additional parking needs if this proposal is adopted. So as it stands, we don't really have the answer for parking on this property. And then finally, consideration 8. I think this consideration is important because I talked about earlier if we were to move forward with it, what if the request was modified to just rezone the mansion and exclude that 272 East property? And there's some reasons and some repercussions for that. Nothing would change with the mansion rezone. It already, like I mentioned earlier, can continue and is supported by the city as a legal, non-conforming commercial use. The businesses would not be impacted by the zoning change. Because it's in a historic district, there's not going to be much changes to the property, especially the building and the building facade. The community benefit is sort of the answer to this question. Because the community benefit proposed impacts both properties, if you only move forward with the rezone of this one parcel, then the community benefit proposed is sort of negated. It only applies if both properties are rezoned. So we would have to come up with a new community benefit. A split recommendation would allow any use in MU2 on 140B Street, which is Ellerbeck mentioned, without an express community benefit. All right. Finally, after reviewing these considerations, staff has found that the project does not sufficiently comply with the standards of review, the general plan standards, the MU2 zoning standards, the zoning ordinance standards, and therefore staff is recommending that the Historic Landmarks Commission forward a negative recommendation for both the general plan amendment and the zoning map amendment. With that, thank you. This concludes my presentation, and I am happy to take questions. The applicants are also both here, and they do have a presentation prepared as well.
Okay. First, do any members of the commission have questions for staff?
I have a question.
Sure.
This is not to imply that there won't be a myriad of other reasons why this application or their intent or their use won't eventually come to fruition, whether that's at the council level or some other level. But strictly with regard to our purview, which one of those 8 factors give us a reason to deny the application?
Yeah, great question. I think
Forwarding a recommendation, not denying.
Or forward a negative recommendation. If I'm looking at the jurisdiction of the subject matter jurisdiction of the Historic Landmark Commission, what's the basis that the HLC, especially where the application in its own words states no new construction or modifications of the historic buildings on these properties are proposed as part of this petition, and the code says that our purview is projects under the capital improvements which involve change in the external features of a historic district or landmark site, including remodeling or alteration of an external structure, demolition or removal, new construction, erection of signs, and improving right-of-way above grade infrastructure. So all those 8 factors, I think they're very relevant for someone to consider. Which one of those factors are for our consideration?
Yeah, definitely. That's great. I appreciate that question because, like I say, we're here to talk about historic preservation, and our historic preservation program is awesome. That being said, I truly believe all 8 of them are important for you to consider, especially consideration 1. You have guiding documents that you should adhere to as commissioners. But every one of these is important. Parking is important to the historic district. The city goals are really important because there has not been any precedent of a historic property ever being taken off of the housing market in Salt Lake City. That has not happened before. The historic use, and of course, the historic use is relevant to the property, right? How people interact with the property, how maintenance goes forward, are relevant to the use of the property. And if that historic precedent were to change, it would, be in conflict with the city goals.
So all of the factors to consider that are laid out, if you agree with the staff report, there's a motion where you would be forwarding, as an advisory body, you would be forwarding your recommendation, considering those factors to consider. If you don't agree with any of those factors and want to add in any other additional comments for the council to consider in their final action, we will forward those on.
Well, I guess, as an individual, I have my own personal opinions, but I'm still trying to figure out how parking, use of the building, any of the other factors impact our mandated jurisdiction. And council, maybe you can explain to me how any of those 8 factors impact the alteration of the external alteration and the facade of the structure.
So we are not looking at that piece right now. What we are looking at under this is the rezone, right, of this property. And if you think that rezone is consistent with the historic overlay that this property lies in. So in doing that, you're looking at all the factors that Grant has spoken to. And doing that, you are deciding whether or not you think that this is appropriate to recommend moving forward.
What gives us the authority to look at the rezone generally without any part of the application addressing the structure or the aesthetic of the building?
Because you're putting on your legislative advisory hat right now. And we don't bring every rezone or general map amendment to this body, but generally, you don't see them that often. We did it for Trolley Square too. We did actually have the map amendment taken to the Historic Landmark Commission, I think before or after the Planning Commission. We'll take both of those recommendations, package them up to the city council, and then the city council make the final decision, looking at what both advisory bodies recommend to them, or any other additional suggestions that you would like as an advisory body to provide to the council.
So if I may ask a question
You have the
on
authority.
that real
You do
quick.
have the authority.
I want to tie this off. So first off, with regard to Trolley Square, I feel a little conflicted addressing that, so I just won't respond to that. I guess if the council is coming to us as an advisory body, I can kind of wrap my head around it. I'm getting nervous about, I don't want this to reflect what I personally feel are my opinions on those 3 factors. I do think it would have an adverse impact on housing and an adverse impact on parking and so on and so forth. I actually agree with a lot of your factors. I'll leave it at this because I don't think I'm going to get into agreement. I just don't think, I'm not clear on where our jurisdiction comes with regard to those 8 factors or anything in the staff report as applies to us. I think it's great analysis for the city council. I think that's fantastic analysis, and I hope the city council follows it. But as a commissioner on the Historic Landmarks Commission, I just don't see how we have jurisdiction over that issue.
Because it's within the historic overlay.
That's exactly what I was going to
That is
ask.
why it is in front of this board for a recommendation.
The Historic Landmark Commission has authority over rezoning proposals within the historic districts. That's what creates our authority to
And for
evaluate
council,
that.
I liken that to personal jurisdiction, but I still don't see the subject matter jurisdiction. So yes, we have personal jurisdiction over the building, but we don't have subject matter.
Our code speaks to when you have a property in the historic overlay district that is requesting some type of major modification, maybe it be a tear down and a new build, or it be some type of addition to a property, something that changes what you are already seeing, has to go before Historic Landmark Commission. So they will make a recommendation to the city council on the underlying application as to whether or not they think it's consistent with the historic overlay district.
I'll stop being the new guy causing fireworks. How does that sound?
I have questions.
It's a good question.
I saw lots of hands go up. If you don't mind, Commissioner Currency, okay. Commissioner Dubois.
Just for my own, how many bedrooms does this have?
The little house.
Okay.
One bedroom.
It's pretty small.
Because we're on the public record and we have to make sure it's all recorded.
Whatever,
Yeah.
sorry.
There is.
It's one bedroom,
One
and
bedroom.
half of your presentation was about affordable housing? Saying affordable, affordable, affordable. And I'm looking at that going, well, if the average is 800,000 in the avenues, that's a house payment right now, given current interest rates, of $4,500 a month. How is that affordable? And where do we find affordable as one of these designations? Who determines what's affordable there? Because a one-bedroom is very, very unusual. I drive by this place, I must say, 10 times a day, and it's become very popular, but I notice one really unique thing about it is everyone seems to be walking to it. It's a neighborhood thing, and I really, really appreciate that in our neighborhood, which is just a sidebar. So wondering, too, if these applicants said, we still want the cafe, okay, we don't want to lose this one-bedroom housing, could they add a second story there and still have a cafe on the main level?
Great question, and I want to back up. I want to be clear that the request, the key considerations, do not include an element of affordability. I mentioned affordability as a portion of one of these key considerations because the house that is unaffordable that exists is still more affordable than a house that does not exist. This house, although now it saw a flip and has become unaffordable, when it was originally purchased by a third party before them, was purchased for a price that would be considered more affordable. And I can read that. The team of planners drafting the Avenues Community Plan update found the average home price in the Avenues is $802,000. Well, the applicants purchased this home for $500,000 in 2024, making it a rare, attainable unit in a highly desirable neighborhood that offers few opportunities for residents with moderate incomes. But yeah, like I say, the main thing is just that it's a house that exists, and with every house that gets taken out of the housing supply.
Sure, so if they didn't give up the one-bedroom and had a one-bedroom apartment,
Yes.
could they possibly have a cafe on the main level?
That's the second part of the request, or the question. I think that's a great question. I will say that's not part of this current request, right? We're here to discuss this current
I'm just
request.
asking for possibilities here.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I think a big sort of hurdle is the historic district, right? We're talking about modifications to the building itself. There's really no additional land on this property. The backyard is like maybe 10 feet deep. That being said, I think it is worthwhile to consider. I would answer to that as well. We do have a historic precedent of a proposal similar where the applicant, offered to include an ADU in the rear yard, and that was denied by City Council.
Can you remind me on that 865 South what the Historic Landmarks Commission, or our recommendation was?
Oh, yeah, good question.
That's a great question. I don't know that. And I should have started this off with, I was not the planner that originally assembled this, but.
I will get to that. But I do want to answer the question of where the authority lies, because
Talk closer, I can't hear you.
it does lie. Thank you, Babs.
Yeah.
I mean, Commissioner DeLay. Here it is. I was like, I know it's in here. I've seen it 1,000 times. Right. It's 21A 06050, where it speaks to the jurisdiction and authority of the Historic Landmark Commission. C5, make recommendations on applications for zoning amendments involving properties within the Historic Preservation Overlay Historic District when requested by the applicant, planning director, planning commission, or the city council. There's your authority.
Okay.
I just wanted to get that on the record. Thanks.
Do you have anything further? Commissioner Barnett?
I wanted to ask, can you explain to me the current status of the bed and breakfast as being legal non-conforming, and how does something become legal non-conforming? Because it's not zoned for the use that it is being used for right now.
Yes.
So I just want to understand how that works.
That's a great question, and honestly, it's great context that I should have included, certainly for the public. A legal non-conforming use, right? I'll come back to that Ellerbeck mansion. Our zoning code is honestly newer than a lot of the buildings here in Salt Lake City, especially in our historic districts. A legal non-conforming use is really just zoning speak to indicate that this building and its use predate the zoning ordinance, at least the applicable portion of the zoning ordinance. And that's to say that this bed and breakfast use existed, this commercial use existed on this property before it was designated as that RMF 35 moderate density multifamily residential housing. And so therefore it's grandfathered in. It's able to continue that use. The city does not sort of backdate that or require them to come into compliance unless there's some sort of change.
So if the current owner sold it to somebody and it became a single-family residence, then it could not be turned back into a bed and breakfast under the current zoning.
For the Ellerbeck mansion, that's a great question. Yes, the answer is yes. It would then become a single-family home. That is correct.
Okay. So having...
And I should say, there's like legal definitions there and timelines, but you know, the overarching principle is yes, if the use is abandoned, the appropriate
the legal
use.
non-conforming use is not permanent, whereas the zoning change is permanent.
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner McGrath, do you have any questions for staff?
So this is a very comprehensive staff report, and there's a lot of stuff in there. Is it safe to say the two primary concerns of the staff are, one, the loss of the dwelling unit, and two, the unintended consequences of it possibly becoming a short-term rental in the future? Is that safe to say?
Yes. However, it's not my recommendation. It's not even Alicia's. It's really the guiding documents for the city. I'm just merely representing them. But yes, the guiding documents of the city time and time again state that the priority is housing preservation of that house and that existing unit.
Okay. I think the statement from Plan Salt Lake, the policy statement that's articulated in the staff report, is also relevant in this situation, because we're not only in the housing business, we're in the business of creating great communities.
Definitely.
It says neighborhood business districts also play an important role in shaping the unique character of our neighborhoods and provide valuable goods and services for nearby residents. While they vary in size and draw, neighborhood business districts contribute to the overall livability and economic health of our city. I guess in reading the staff report, I think the thing that I was most concerned about was that I am absolutely sympathetic about the housing shortage in this region, especially as it relates to affordability. But I'm wondering if we have the blinders just a little bit too tight, and we're supporting a use that would greatly enhance any neighborhood in the city. A coffee shop and a bookstore in a walkable neighborhood, I think, would be a fabulous amenity to this community. So I think that the loss of one dwelling unit is unfortunate, but the addition of these additional land uses, I think, would be a real benefit to the community.
If I may, Yes. The cafe, I don't know if I made this clear, currently exists. Any change that happens tonight will not take that away. The cafe currently adds to that community. We see people walking up to it.
Yeah, I understand that.
Can I ask one thing? If there are questions for staff, if we can ask those now. If we have comments on our view, then
Okay,
if we could save those for executive session, just to,
Okay.
thank you, sorry.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions before I have a couple? All right.
I'm sorry, can I ask one more
Yeah,
question?
yeah.
I was also kind of curious about the community benefit, consideration number 3. Is that a typical way of, offering up some services and, I don't know, payments to consider? Is that typically the way this is done?
That's a great question. It is atypical. That zoning ordinance is new. However, it is sort of built towards a traditional rezone, not inside of a zoning district, but atypical.
Okay. It would be my opinion that the community benefit would be a bookstore and a coffee shop as opposed to any of the stuff that was articulated there.
Mm-hmm.
3 questions before we ask the applicant to come up. One, you had commented on the neighborhood business district and retail being important, but also the fact that there's an inherent conflict that the city also talks about, housing preservation. Under what circumstances does one take precedent over the other, and one take precedent over the other in the reverse way?
Yeah, absolutely. The answer to that is when the future land use map designates those properties, usually in clusters, as sort of a business district. Otherwise, it's very clear that the house takes the precedent.
Okay. You mentioned that there are proposed changes to the community plan and the avenues, and I know that that's coming up for community discussion. Would any of the proposed changes that are currently out there impact the decision or the approach on this area?
Because it hasn't been adopted.
Okay. And then finally, the way that I read the report, it implied to me that if there was a building that was currently being used as a residence, even though historically it was a commercial property in the avenues, there would be weighted against converting it back to its historic use if there was a proposal to make it into a commercial enterprise again. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, state that again, please.
If there was an historic property that was originally a market or a store in the avenues that had been converted into a residential use, the way that I read this is that there would be an impediment to returning that to its historic commercial use based on the criteria established here. Is that correct?
That's outside the purview of this. I can't really speak to that.
Well, okay.
That's the same impression that I got.
Yeah.
The same thought ran through my mind. Well, what if, because I've seen quite a number of historically commercial properties in the avenues that have become residential. And I thought, well, what would that mean if somebody wanted to turn one of those into a commercial property? The arguments here would argue against that, whereas I personally would be like, I think that would be an enhancement for the neighborhood. So
We do have some adaptive reuse incentives where, yes, like a landmark structure could have been commercial, gone to residential and back. It could go back and forth. So yes, there is a mechanism in our code where it would be allowed.
Well, we can get into that later.
I think we can get into that later.
Yeah, in the interest of
That's true.
moving forward on the, the applicant's invited to come up with the presentation.
Sorry, can I put a point on what Michaela brought up in the code section just for our record?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm looking at subsection C5 of that, and I'm understanding this to be make recommendations. So the Historic Landmark Commission shall make recommendations on applications for zoning amendments involving properties within the Historic Preservation Overlay District when requested by the applicant, planning director, planning commission, or the city council. That's where we're driving our authority, it seems, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Please come. Speaking to the microphone, as always, be sure to state your names for the record, if you would, please. And just as a reminder, you've got 10 minutes. We'll let you know when you're getting close to that if you're over.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for your time. Grant, Alicia, Casey, Stewart, you guys have all been really great to work with. We are going to proceed to disagree with you, but we appreciate how easy you've made this complicated process for us to navigate, Grant. My name, for the record, is Tyler Alden, and I'm sitting beside my wife,
Kara Alden.
We own and operate Ellerbeck Bed and Breakfast and Cafe 140B as well. We took over the bed and breakfast in 2019, and we've lived in the Avenues ever since. Our kids go to school in the Avenues. My grandfather built his home in the Avenues, right? Hey, that's nice, thank you. And ran a brick and mortar art shop downtown by where Green Ant is now. We've got downtown Salt Lake, mom and pop, a lot of passion for that. We want to see the Avenues thrive.
Yes, and since we're all history buffs here, we just figured we'd go back to the 1892 build. The bed and breakfast, the Ellerbeck Mansion was built in 1892 by Thomas Ellerbeck, right there for his wife Henrietta. And as we've discussed, it's on the National Register of Places, a historically significant building. It looks as it did in that photo from 1934, and we're lucky that it is so well preserved over the last 130 years. But in 1996, it became a bed and breakfast. So we're celebrating our 30th year as a bed and breakfast, one of the oldest B&Bs in Salt Lake City. Speaking of 1966, that sort of grandfathered in situation, this bed and breakfast is somewhat of the precedent for houses turning into businesses, because in 1996, some commission approved this to become a business, or at least a non-conforming business. So at some point, there had to be a change made, and a house that was just a single-family house for 90 years, or 100 years at that point, to turn into a business use. So the bed and breakfast, obviously 30 years, we serve guests who literally got married here 28 years ago and are coming back to celebrate their anniversary. It's a beautiful thing. The Cafe 140B operates out of the Carriage House. I love that some of you have passed by it, maybe eaten there. It is a beautiful neighborhood, walkable third space. It's incredibly beloved. And anyway, so we'll get to more of that, but these are the three properties as Grant went over. We don't need to go too far into this, but the cottage, we call it the cottage, the 272 3rd Avenue was built in 1906, and I do think it's important for this conversation to note that for the last 15 years, this was a completely rundown building. It actually hasn't housed anyone in 15 years. It was an eyesore behind our property, boarded up windows, absolutely unlivable. Like the walls were falling in, the roof was caving in. It was flipped by another party, and we saw it happening and thought how great this would be to have this property right behind us. We envisioned a potential neighborhood benefit or some other way we could use this adjacent property. And just as a side note, this was purchased for $600,000 and is not a terribly affordable mortgage for a one-bedroom. So we do currently, just that's for some more context on the street. They're all just bing, bing, bing right next to each other. Legal non-conforming is not a good solution. It's not a good solution for the city. It's not a good solution for the business owner. It's this weird gray area. We operate this, 30-year running bed and breakfast on residential property, essentially. We deserve zoning that matches the commercial use of the property we're on to protect our business and to protect this building for its commercial use. The cafe like I said, has been a beloved building, or sorry, a beloved, sorry, let me skip to this. So you both pointed out that the commercial zoning might protect this business from, or to continue. In 2019, when this house business sold, it was listed on the residential market. I've spoken with other people who were very close to buying it up against us, who wanted to just live there, who wanted to just immediately turn it into their home.
The Ellerbeck, yes.
Yeah, the Ellerbeck, sorry. So this cafe, this bed and breakfast would not exist had it turned over to the residential market at that time. Luckily, we purchased it, we kept the business there, the grandfathered business in this gray area, and you know, I think for consideration here, it is really important to zone it commercially so that that doesn't happen in the future and the neighborhood loses this commercial space and the open doors of the bed and breakfast and the cafe to the neighborhood. So Grant referenced the Avenues Plan from 1987, the city plan or the Avenues Plan. Obviously this is in draft, and we kind of referenced this already. The Avenues Community Plan is in current draft. And we believe that this plan absolutely aligns with the future hopes and planning for the avenues. There are so many quotes in here, so many pieces of this that are very much supported for this petition. First, just tying it to the zoning piece there, in chapter 12 about the economy, it says zoning can play a key role in supporting the local economic activity in the avenues. Currently, less than 1% of land allows commercial uses. This is largely due to past zoning changes that converted many mixed-use or commercial areas to residential only. As a result, many areas with existing businesses or properties with long history of commercial use are now only zoned for residential use. This nonconformity that we're currently in limits our ability to expand and can create barriers to secure financing. Updating the zoning designation in these areas to recognize them and support these existing community businesses will help retain them. That is written in the draft. This is us, 100%. So we hope that you can see us right there, written in there.
This brings us to, if you'll progress my slide, thank you, Grant. This brings us to the second prong of this proposal, which concerns 272 3rd Avenue, which is that charming little cottage that you see there. It is a one-bedroom, and our working concept for this space is the reading room. We want this to be a business, retail, and food space where our community can come together and have a social hub, play games, read, shop. Neighborhood retail is something that we want to see more of in the neighborhood, and we know from the Avenues Community Plan it's also a priority to the city. This cottage space, it would operate as a sister space to Cafe 140B. So in tandem, this space, though, would be selling books, antiques, art, stationery, and local goods in addition to food and beverage. On the weekends, Cafe 140B regularly has nonstop lines and a packed patio, and these are great problems to have, and we love it. And you're right, the majority of the people that are coming are people that walk or are chaining their bikes up, and we love that. And we encourage it everywhere we can. As part of this proposal, we have offered to add bike racks, add as much facilities as we can to encourage that. But
and we're located on a bike lane and a bus stop. So there's a lot of already built infrastructure that encourages traffic to this corner.
Yes. Adding this space to the cottage, which, as you may know, is the cottage is about the tiniest cafe you've ever seen in your life, and we love that. And it's charming, and it's historical, and working in tandem with this adjacent space would allow for more space for the community to come visit and breathe and enjoy a historical property.
Mm-hmm. And we are sensitive to the concerns about housing. However, this is a one-bedroom cottage, and as a single-family house, it could serve a maximum of probably 2 people. But as a preserved public-facing historic business space, this could potentially serve thousands of neighbors and travelers alike alongside the bed and breakfast and cafe that are already there.
Could you progress this slide?
Just to speak to preservation for a second, we have used preservation as a big part of our brand. Our bed and breakfast guests show up to this mansion and see pioneer antiques and art on the walls, and our library is full of books stocked with turn-of-the-century Utah history. For the cafe, for the cafe, we have based our entire menu on pioneer recipes.
That's time.
That's time. Okay. Should we just stop? Okay.
Yeah, we're only allowed 10 minutes for that. However, after the public comment section, you will have a chance to respond to any of the public comments that are made, but focused on those public comments. Thank you for the presentation, though.
I did want to clarify really quick, just to be clear of the legality. The Ellerbeck Mansion is a landmark site, and therefore the commercial use is protected on that property. It's a protected commercial use. They would be able to go back to that.
Essentially, they don't need to rezone in a landmark site to operate a bed and breakfast. I just want that on the record. Because we do have, I really am.
Good, thank you.
We have adaptive reuse section, so I just wanted to put on the record.
Yes.
And I love your bed and breakfast so much, I have to say. I love it so much. And I love the cafe.
Could you,
But in landmark sites, we have adaptive reuse incentives where a landmark site would be able to operate a bed and breakfast without a rezone.
could they combine the parcels?
Can we get through the public comments first before we get into the?
Whatever.
Yeah.
Just keep
Thank
going.
you.
Just keep going.
I do have a few comment cards. Of course, I'll call for anyone that might want to make a public comment separately. I do have a couple cards for people that do not wish to speak, but I will read their comments into the record separately. The first comment card we received was from Cindy Cromer.
You have a very thorough staff report and extensive public comments, but you need my comment because it's likely to be different from all of the others. The conversion of historic buildings to bed and breakfast began in Salt Lake in the 1980s. I remember because I stole an idea from John and Nancy Pace's Brigham Street Inn when it opened. I'm working on a list of the outcomes for Salt Lake's B&Bs over the past 40 years for the Planning Commission meeting. This is very difficult to assemble. I'm working from my memory, yellow pages that I can find. It is not a straight path for what happened to these buildings, but there are frequently conversions to office uses under the conditional use permit, and also there is one short-term rental in the former Salt Air Bed and Breakfast. These alternatives were not intended when the city granted conditional uses for these properties. And I really appreciate the comments from Commissioners Barnett and Semnani. I struggle to see the issue before you, and I've decided it's very narrow from the standpoint of historic preservation. The quality of the food here is not relevant. What is relevant to your recommendation is whether the historic use of the single-family residence is viable, and it most certainly is. A historic use should be preserved with the structure itself whenever possible. And adaptive reuse is an emergency measure. Very trendy, but the original historic use should stay with the historic structure whenever possible. I can support the use of 140B as a residence. A rezoning and a master plan amendment are
That's
not
time.
necessary to do that. Thanks.
Thank you. The next comment card that I have is from Jared Brown, if you'd like to step up. Yeah, you can pass those out, that's fine.
And while those documents are getting passed out, if the architect gets all the glory and the engineer gets out the shaft and then the planner gets the shaft, you should try being a breakfast server in the mornings. You get a lot of grief. It's a pretty low totem pole setting there. But I consider it the base, I consider it the foundation. So if I'm down there at the foundation, I'd like to talk about the foundation of what's going on here. So my name is Jared Brown. My wife and I, Vanessa, have lived in this house on 130 C Street for close to a decade. Before I start, I'd like to thank the commission. This first property of the application I'd like to address is 140B. The bed and breakfast, its function is this for 25 years. There should be no zoning change at all. It seems to be lucrative in such the fact that they just bought the property next door, which was the 272 house. This house at 272 3rd Avenue is the subject that I would like to focus on for the remainder of the time. I have given you a colored print just to explain more. Built in 1912, this house has the historical facade, brick, masonry, certain materials, craftsman expertise, masonry work that is fantastic. The RMF 35 overlay ordinances were adopted in our city to keep housing districts for housing. I find it shameful to buy such a home with a different intent, to not use it for what it is designed for and zoned for. This robs those who with desire and integrity to have the opportunity to become permanent neighbors and friends, as this house would be considered a NOAH, which is affordable housing occurring naturally, because in the avenues you will not find anything cheaper than this. Even if you are two people, this, relative to the market of the avenues, this is true. And because of the small footprint, it adds another thing, no garage, anything. This would be perfect for a pedestrian walking, a nurse that works at the hospital, etc. They can walk to where they go. It's perfect for that type of person. How would it change? It would change the facade. I don't care what you say. If you have another cafe going in there, you're gonna have lighting, you're gonna have security. We just saw the big sign on the facade of this 1912 building. It's disgusting.
That's time.
I stick with the staff report.
Thank you. I have a couple cards for comments that I'm going to read into the record, but before I do so, does anyone present wish to speak? Yes, please. Step up and state your name.
Hi there. I'm Jed Butler. I live at 428 East 5th Avenue. I live a few blocks away from the Beck and Cafe 140B. I'm part of the community that things like this are meant to support.
Can you get closer to the mic, please?
I'd love to. Thank you. The problem with the lower avenues is all this non-conforming business. There's very few services currently, and everybody here probably knows of stories of businesses in the lower avenues that have closed, and those services are now no longer to reopen. They've converted back. So these non-conformities and just frankly regressive zoning policy really hurt business owners in the neighborhood, and they make it to where people like me have to drive to Barnes & Noble and Sugar House, or we have to order from Amazon.com for books. Frankly, I'd much rather walk to a place 4 blocks from my house and meet my neighbors, my friends, hang out, pet some dogs, order coffee, and benefit the community which I live. I have worked as a city planner, so I understand how city plans can come in conflict. Fortunately, we have a new draft zoning plan for the avenues. I believe it's called the Draft Avenues Master Plan. Tyler referred to it. And that will be in drastic conflict with the current guiding documents of the city, as the planner here no doubt knows. I think it says in there less than 1% of land currently allows commercial uses. And there's plenty of other great quotes in there. One more thing, I'm probably almost out of time here. The house in question, 272 3rd Avenue, does not have space for any kind of granny flat. There's basically no room in the backyard. It's a 1-bedroom. It's a small 1-bedroom, if you guys have been there. I know because I live in the neighborhood, I walk past it all the time. But it's it would be a shame to
That's
lose a quality community benefit in lieu of a shack.
Thank you. Does anyone else present like to make a public comment tonight? Please step up and state your name.
Hello. This is my worst nightmare, speaking out loud, but I love the Ellerbeck.
I'm sorry.
Sorry,
could you
my
state
name
your
is Victoria Baskin. I have been the manager of the bed and breakfast for 5 years and the innkeeper for 5 years. I also lived at Ellerbeck Bed and Breakfast for 4 years, and it was magical. I think that Ellerbeck creates a space for humans that does not exist anywhere else in the avenues. It is a stepping point for all travelers, but also people in the community. I host weekly people from all over the world, but also grandparents of people that live in the avenues weekly. And I think that it truly benefits the community. That's all. Also, I looked at the house next door with my partner, now husband. It was a completely derelict property and completely unaffordable for us to live in as two well-off, good people. So just wanted to mention that. That's all.
Thank you. Does anyone else present wish to make a public comment? Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Maya Dangerfield. I've been the cafe manager for the past 2 years, and I live around the corner. My house is actually on one of those slides, so my apartment building. Most of the people in my building and the 2 buildings kitty corner are so appreciative to have this cafe and this B&B in the area. The Aldens have done a great job at preserving the history of the area. It's something everyone comments on when they see it. We're all super grateful to have a walkable spot to utilize. I've hired so many of these neighbors to be the staff of this cafe. We've continued to expand as we've gotten more popular, and continue to have a lot of walkable employees that come and get part-time work in their neighborhood. We've also had many cafe regulars spark up conversations that leads to friendship, relationships, professional relationships. I've never been at a restaurant that this happens. I truly am baffled. I think the history is so etched within their business that it's appreciated in every moment, and people take it, it's like the 50s when you're sitting there and you talk to the table next to you, not your phone, It's something we need in the city, and I think it definitely preserves history and does it justice. I also have many cafe regulars that are there every single weekend. I have moms from the school coming in with their kids. I have people from the Madeleine Cathedral coming after their services, teachers from the 2 schools surrounding us using that space. And yeah, it's just a very nice space for people to decompress and just take a moment that's not so high pressured like it can be today, and really just relax and enjoy what life was like in 1892. But yeah, that's pretty much all. I think they've done a beautiful job at preserving the history, and I think they would for the adjacent building as well.
Thank you. Does anyone else present tonight like to make a public comment? Yes, please.
My name is Brian S. I work at the cafe, and I've known the Eldens pretty much since the cafe started, and it's built from just a little stand to the carriage house with them cleaning out whatever else. And I feel that what they've done with the place is amazing. They've changed the environment of the avenues, it feels like. From me going to the school over there to then working with them is amazing. And then with the house next door, I personally in agreement with them getting it, especially because it was abandoned and people weren't really able to live in there before. I feel it doesn't really affect the housing of the avenues from there. Sorry, I don't really know what else to say. I'm kind of nervous here. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else present wish to make a public comment? Please.
My name is Vanessa Brown, and I would think if this passes, it's going to set a precedent for the future of the neighborhood to continue to grow into commercial use, which would not be a good situation for our cute little historic Avenues neighborhood. What would stop it in the future from turning into a 9th and 9th area of downtown Salt Lake City? Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Would anyone else present like to make a public comment? All right, seeing none, I will read the 2 written comments into the record. One comment says, I have family that lives in the area. 3rd Avenue is one of the busiest streets. By expanding the bed and breakfast to include 272 East 3rd Avenue, it will put a burden on the community around the business because there is not enough room for parking already. The second public comment is, and forgive me, I'm trying to read the handwriting. I am against changing 272 to commercial retail use. Not enough parking, too much activity, constant noise, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Against rezoning B&B and cafe. Not enough parking, too many commercial businesses too close, too much noise, too much activity now, problems for residents, concern increased activity noise problems if increased rezone. All right, I will ask if there's any other public comments one last time. All right, and with that, you have if you would like to respond to any of the public comments, you may do so.
Yeah, we would. Go ahead, Carol. Do you have something to start?
I felt like we didn't do justice on the slide that represented the public comment period before. It basically seemed like there was equal positive to negative, when in reality there have been 80 emails in the planning inbox in support of this, to say nothing of the conversations we've had with tens and tens of cafe goers, of neighbors who have been in great support of this. This has overwhelming positive public support for us to have these walkable commercial spaces. There were three emails in the public comment period that were represented there that were negative. And so I just want to, those are really important percentages there.
I think that a couple good points were brought up in that last question in particular about the future of the house, and I would like to reinforce that we would like to consider this with conditions. We would absolutely be comfortable with conditions such as, upon change of use, it needs to be reevaluated, it needs to be reassessed. Like we said, our goal is to keep this property as unaffected as possible, that it can still be able to revert back into a family home if that's where its future lies. And changing the structure of the home is not part of the conversation. We are open to exploring an ADU if we could do something like that. Like, there's a balancing act here of, it does really change the exterior of the building in order to add a dwelling unit there, but we are interested in balancing that and having that conversation if that was, again, in the future of the home.
The only other thing I just wanted to read directly from the Avenues plan draft. It says, Avenues community members want more neighborhood businesses. Community engagement identified the lack of neighborhood serving amenities as one of the most important issues in the Avenues. And this future plan, we believe our petition supports all of this these goals in one. And they identified 3rd Avenue and B Street as some of the more important streets that commercial activity could develop upon. They even suggested creative solutions because there is no vacant land in this area. We're not going to build new structures, and so creative solutions are encouraged through this Avenues community plan, and we believe that this cottage is exactly that. It's a creative solution to give the neighborhood more of what it wants. And we respectfully believe that we can do that. We know, we believe Ellerbeck and Cafe speak for themselves as evidence of our efforts at historic preservation and creating these neighborhood benefits. And we ask the Historic Landmark Commission to move forward with a positive recommendation on our behalf to the City Council.
Okay, thank you. With that, the commission will move into executive session to discuss the application. Is anyone interested in kicking off that conversation?
I think it is, from my perspective, it's helpful to focus on our role as a landmark commission, which is not to respond specifically to parking concerns or even to housing concerns, but to the historic character of the neighborhood as a whole. And those things are all impacted by these various elements, but I think we have to look at it through the lens of what does this mean for the historic character of the neighborhood long term? And that's our role. And it's not even, I don't think it's our position to say, well, residents want something here. It's like, well, but long term, what does that mean? If the current residents want something to happen here, what does that mean long term for preserving the historic character of the neighborhood? And part of the character of the neighborhood is that historically it was dotted with commercial properties. I think if we had it mapped out, we would see scattered throughout the avenues are these historically commercial properties, some of which are still commercial. And I listen to this. Every time I drive by this house, I can't look at the house without thinking, whoever those owners are, who I didn't know until today, I'm like, they are doing a fantastic job. It's beautiful. It's kept up so nicely. And then I hear these comments. I've never been to the cafe. I didn't even know it was there. But I hear these comments, and it's like this. It's just the kind of thing that you want to happen in the neighborhood. You want to have those neighborhood gathering places. But historically, those gathering places were not concentrated in one place in the avenues. They were scattered throughout the avenues. And having residential properties turned into commercial properties is sort of incompatible with, and the concentration of where you start to build this zone, especially when you change the zoning, saying, okay, we're going to start building a zone here in the middle of a residential, because historically it has not been a zone. It's been one here, one there, on these little corners. And so while I think the applicant's vision is fantastic of this, like a bookstore cafe, I would love to see that in one of the vacant little stores in the avenues. So it's walkable for the people in the neighborhood and stuff, but I don't love to see it concentrated with other things and removing a house, what has traditionally been a residential structure. And you see a lot of these all over the city in older neighborhoods. You see these homes turned into salons or to a variety of different uses, which I guess, as Cindy Cromer said, is maybe a last resort, and it's lovely to see them used, but they're not in the avenues. And the avenues is special, has been designated as special, which is why we're talking about it here today. And so even though it may be happening elsewhere, and I'm glad to see a building used rather than torn down. Here, I would rather see a house remain a house, and have these amenities show up elsewhere in the neighborhood to serve that community. And just because I think I guess I'm looking at long term, changing the zoning, I don't know, it feels to me like things will always go the direction that zoning allows. And so if we want the zoning to be restricted in the long term, then we need to keep it where we want it to be and not open it up. Even though in the short term, that might seem like a good option, I think in the long term, it opens up the possibility that no one will ever live in that house again. And so I guess those are my thoughts.
I think you're absolutely correct in that the historic nature of the avenues was to have a sprinkling of commercial uses throughout the neighborhood. The uses may have evolved over the years, but the avenues has always had some level of commercial use within the neighborhood. And that, quite frankly, I think that's one of the things that makes the neighborhood so desirable and such a great neighborhood. I don't think that by approving this, or if this happens, we run a risk of having a bed and breakfast and a cafe evolving into a commercial district within the neighborhood. I wouldn't be so much concerned about that. To me, I support this rezoning. I think that having this land use within the avenues would be a tremendous amenity, would be a tremendous benefit to the neighborhood. You're putting a very walkable, locally oriented use in a walkable neighborhood. Getting these third places in these neighborhoods like this is maybe the most important thing we can do in creating a mixed-use neighborhood, whether it's a park or a cafe or a bakery or whatever. Just given the nature of the commercial world these days, creating these types of places is very difficult. And so I support the rezoning.
I'm more than happy to speak unless someone else would like to.
My takeaway right now is that the city, which that presentation was one of the better ones I've heard in years, very thorough, but also pointing out how limited we are with our current rules and regulations, and yet the proposal of the new rules seems more flexible. Is that a takeaway? Is that accurate, would you say, Michaela?
What new rules?
What she's pointing out there, the new avenues.
The new community plan.
Community plan. The new community plan? Well, it's not adopted yet.
It's not, but is it more flexible for these people? So let's say this fails.
Potentially.
Okay.
Right? I mean, it's a plan. It's not just going to instantly change zoning and processes, but it's going to, provide that
and I had a
policy to change zoning.
I had a question before, too. What would happen if they tried to combine the parcels for the one-bedroom home with the Ellerback? Could they then use that building for whatever kitchen use they wanted or bookstore use?
No, because it's RMF 35.
What?
Because it's RMF 35, which doesn't allow that, which does not allow that the commercial use.
Thanks.
So, we acknowledge that there are newer plans, so many plans, adopted policy that we have, and there are older plans that are in the process of being updated, and, that's the beauty of our elected officials on the council who get to weigh those, and they would like to hear your thoughts as well in the form of a recommendation to them.
One more question, just actually for you all. Could you say in percentage-wise how many people are driving to eat at the cafe versus people walking? 50%? 100%? Off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I would say 50-50.
Okay, thank you.
So I will make a few comments on this. It's challenging when the city has policies that are inherently in conflict to clearly define what the city is looking for, especially on a very localized scale versus the scale of the entire city as a whole. Clearly, we have two different directions based on different plans adopted at different times that go in different directions with respect to the neighborhood retail versus housing units. One of the challenges that I see, well, let me back up a little bit. One of the great things about the avenues that's been expressed here before is that you can actually walk to places. You can walk to the grocery store. You can walk to, well, it used to be Subway, but the cleaners, various things like that. You can walk to the restaurants. You can walk to little shops. You can walk to Straw Market. You can walk to Hatches. You used to be able to walk before it closed to the little market that was up across the street from LDS Hospital. That's now Hatches and Proper. And the neighborhood has changed, obviously, but if you do walk the neighborhood, one of the things that you notice is all of the commercial buildings that are scattered about that are no longer commercial buildings. The two blocks up from this, maybe 3 blocks, is a small building that's yellow brick, and it used to be the neighborhood market, the neighborhood pharmacy, where the people in the area would go. And that has not been the case for well over 30 years. And it's probably not going to be the case in the foreseeable future. But that was the historic fabric of the neighborhood, of the avenues. And that has, in some sense, been lost because of zoning. And now that a lot of those properties are a residential 35, RM35 zone, they can't go back to the historic fabric of the neighborhood that defined the avenues when most of these buildings were built. And the people that built them lived there. And for me, that's concerning. We've developed impediments. And while the proposed avenues community plan is not adopted, there's clearly a sense that we want to return to that neighborhood that was representative of the avenues in its origins. Instead, we've moved in the direction of having to get in cars and isolating commercial from residential and parking lots and traffic and everything about that. And that's exactly what we're trying to get away from, or so parts of the city plan would suggest. Personally, I find those parts more convincing than others. The staff report is well written. I disagree with its conclusions. I think that even though it would be ideal in the perfect world to have more dispersion, the reality is that with the current zoning, that's not going to happen. And it is a significant benefit to the historic fabric of the avenues to have something like this nearby.
My concern about this is, and it's a wonderful place, and it does create community and preserve the character of the neighborhood. It's a great place. I don't know why it needs to be more of the same thing. Next, I feel like you're running a thriving business, and I'm really glad to see that. I hope there can be more of those, and then we all do. We all want to live in that kind of neighborhood. But I don't think this particular building is the right envelope for that. And I commend the work that you continue to do, and I support it, but I don't support changing the zoning.
No, please.
I lied when I said I wasn't going to mention Trolley Square in this. I'm going to talk about 2 life experiences that guide my position on this recommendation. Number 1 is that as a business owner and as someone who owns a historic property, I can say that I've always felt like the city has been a partner with me to try to keep not only the property economically viable, but to keep it so that I can keep investing in the building. It's not cheap to run a historic building. It just isn't. Everything costs twice as much as a normal building. And so when I see buildings that are contributing buildings that are dilapidated, the first thought is, well, why doesn't that owner just take care of the building? And then the second thought is, well, because they can't afford it. And so when I see this, when I see what they're doing with their business here, I feel like I want the city to be a partner with them, to help them thrive and to reward them for their contribution to these assets. I want to speak to, second, to something that Chairperson Getz and Commissioner Barnett said. They valued the same things, but they reached two different conclusions. In that you valued businesses within these predominantly housing districts, but you disagreed on how spread out they should be. I have the fortune to live in what I think is the most beautiful neighborhood in the city. I live 2 blocks from Emigration Market, and I live 5 blocks from 15th and 15th. And we're raising 3 kids under 5, and we walk to those businesses. When I go home, I feel like I'm in a very private neighborhood. I couldn't think of that a business would be, even next door. But when I walk to Emigration Market, my family has a great time doing it, and there's a coffee shop in the historic district, Logos. There's a pizza restaurant, and then we can walk the other direction and go to 15th and 15th. And there are densities of businesses, and those neighborhoods have not lost their character in the process, at least to my feeling. So I am in favor of recommending the rezone. I see the concerns around housing, and but I think that the amount of people this will serve far outweighs the amount of people that the opportunity cost of the one family it won't. And we shouldn't forget, as much as the city is prioritizing housing, the city is also very much prioritizing walkability. We have a state legislature that is fighting the city right now on this. 2 sessions in a row has passed bills to make it more challenging to walk in our city. Our values on this issue are being overruled by a legislature. So I think this is one narrow example of where we can support the walkability in the neighborhood and really walk the talk.
Do any other commissioners have any comments? All right. With that, do I have a motion? Babs, you made it so that I have to do work.
Here, we can help you. Here.
No, I could do it all by myself. I think I can. Yeah, I can.
You sure?
Yeah.
Is it highlighted?
I got it. Oh, geez. Okay. Okay. I motion that the commission recommend that the city council approve this zoning map amendment application because evidence has been presented that demonstrates the proposal complies with the following standards. The commission should make findings that, demonstrates that the proposal complies with our standards. The commission should make findings related to which, This is what happens when you make me do it. Will you do it, please? Jeez. Michaela's staring daggers at me right now.
No, it's just my reading glasses. But may I say, this was beautiful tonight, and this is why the Landmark Commission wants to be heard from as a recommending body. Thank you.
Oh, jeez. I move that the commission recommend that the city council approve this zoning map application.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. All right, we will have a roll call vote. Commissioner Barnett.
No.
Commissioner DeLay.
Yes.
Commissioner Kearns.
No.
Commissioner McGrath.
Yes.
Commissioner Simnani.
Yes, I don't think her vote got counted, though.
No.
No, I got that.
Okay. Yes.
Commissioner Simnani. And I will vote yes as well. The motion passes by a vote of 4-2.
Good luck.
There are two motions, though, associated with this one. There's the zoning map amendment and then the general plan amendment. So we do need to pass both of those or vote on both of those.
That's you, Babs.
Oh, this is a lot to read. Sorry. Which one would I do?
You deserve it.
Recommend approval on
Can you get
The
closer
general
to the
plan
mic?
should be the top one.
the general plan one. So a motion to recommend approval.
Could you get a little closer to the microphone?
Yes, hold on, I'm talking to myself.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Stop it. Okay. I move that the commission recommend that the city council approve the general plan amendment application because the evidence has been presented that demonstrates the proposal complies with the following standards. The commission should make findings related to which standards are complied with. Is that the one? That's the one. Needs a second.
Second.
Good.
Need to state what those standards.
What are they? Those, which ones?
Go back to the application.
Right? Oh.
The standards that you're voting, you are moving to vote yes on the general plan amendment are met, in your opinion.
Okay.
Let the record reflect it's not as easy as it seems.
That's just freaking true here. Which ones do we want to say? Of the 8? Do we want of the 8? That's on here. Just the standard would be community benefit of the 8. Can you go to the 8 page?
It's on page 48 of the staff report.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's not the 8, that's community, well, community benefits. Sorry, I didn't print it out myself, so.
It's not.
Do you have a copy pulled up?
Is there a way we can pull the staff report up, Brad, maybe? Do you want me to bring my computer over?
The applicant's community benefit falls under the section providing commercial space for local business or charitable organizations.
Yeah, I could do.
Good.
This section here, 21A.
Section 21A 50050 C1B.
Good? Is that good?
Yes, unless there's any other standards that you want to include in that. It's up to you.
Second.
All right. With that, we have a roll call vote. Commissioner Barnett.
No.
Commissioner DeLay.
Yes.
Commissioner Kearns.
No.
Commissioner McGrath.
Yes.
Commissioner Simnani.
Yes.
And I will vote yes as well. That motion passes 4-2.
Can I ask counsel on the motion that I really didn't make very well? I didn't cite a compliance with any standard. Does that motion still hold?
Let me go back to the motion.
Or should I remake it? Because I can remake it citing the same proposed community benefit with the code section.
You should make your findings as well
Okay.
on the zoning map
So,
amendment.
Chairperson, can I remake the motion?
Formally, we should probably, someone who voted yes should make the motion to reconsider. We will reconsider that motion, vote it down. You can make the new motion and we can vote on that.
What was the code section that you just cited, the community benefit one?
But,
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Yep.
first, let's make the motion to reconsider the prior motion.
So I motion to reconsider my motion, my initial motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion to reconsider the prior motion from Commissioner Somnani. We will have a roll call vote. Commissioner Barnett,
No.
Commissioner DeLay,
Yes.
Commissioner Kearns,
No.
Commissioner McGrath,
Yes.
Commissioner Somnani,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. So then we will have a vote on the motion as originally proposed.
With the citing.
Given that it's already been motioned and seconded originally, and we are now reconsidering, this is the motion this is a vote on the original motion as presented. Commissioner Barnett.
Don't I have to enter that code section into the motion?
Yeah.
Amend the motion?
Well, since we voted to reconsider the original motion, we are now reconsidering the original motion. That one needs to fail, and then we would go on to make another
Got
motion
it.
with, yeah. The beauty of Robert's rules, right?
You need an electrical engineer?
Okay, so reconsidering the original motion, a vote against would be to have that motion fail. Commissioner Barnett.
No. Oh, no, yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
Got me confused.
sorry.
Yes.
Commissioner DeLay.
Yes.
Yes?
No, you're a no.
No, now I'm confused.
You're a no now.
I'm now a no. Okay.
I know it's confusing. Commissioner Kearns?
Yes.
Commissioner McGrath?
No?
All right, Commissioner Somnani?
No.
Great.
All right, Commissioner, me?
Okay.
No. All right, so the original motion on reconsideration fails 2-4. You may now make a new motion.
I move that the commission recommend that the city council approve this zoning map amendment application because evidence has presented that demonstrates the proposal complies with code section 21A.50.C.1.B and provides provides a community benefit.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. We will now proceed to roll call vote. Commissioner Barnett.
No.
Commissioner DeLay.
Yes.
Commissioner Kearns.
No.
Commissioner McGrath.
Yes.
Commissioner Somnani.
Yes.
And I will vote yes as well. The motion passes 4-2.
Great. Can we have a bio break?
Yes.
We might need to, hold on, before we do that, we might need to revisit the general plan motion because the section you cited is the wrong section.
It is? Give this.
Our
Jesus,
our
Christmas.
motion sheet is,
Wrong?
it is,
Not good?
it's got problems. I am so sorry.
Okay.
So
Someone used a template that wasn't,
Instead of
Double
dealing with chapter 21A, which was the zoning map amendment chapter, the general plan deals with chapter 19, which is on page 48 of the staff report.
but we could take a bio break and we could actually write down the motion.
That sounds like a great
How about
idea.
that? Okay, there you
Yeah,
go. We'll
let's
assist
take a minute
during
here.
the bio break.
We will return in, say, 5 minutes.
Do we sit here or should we sit back down?
Either is fine.
These are comfy.
While they're doing that, let's go through the steps of reconsidering, so on and so forth. So there's a chapter modification that needs to be made to the general plan amendment motion, correct? That's what I understand. So we need to reconsider the general plan amendments. Oh,
We're doing some drafting over here.
all right.
Talk amongst yourselves.
We will talk amongst ourselves.
So what are you doing for summer vacation?
I haven't decided yet. Yeah.
On your slide.
Yes, yes. So we will call the meeting back to order. As I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, we need to modify the general plan motion in order to update or correct the chapter reference for the motion, correct? First, we need to reconsider the original, withdraw, and all of that. Correct? All right. So we had a previously, I will try to summarize so that we're all on the same page. We had originally voted on, do you have that sheet? Give me that sheet. We had originally had a motion made with respect to the zoning map amendment. That motion passed, but we needed to include a reference. We reconsidered that motion. The original motion was voted down. A new motion was made for the zoning map amendment, citing the section that has passed. We need to follow the same process now for the general plan motion that was previously made.
So if we wanted to do it the same way, we would vote yes on the first round of voting, no on the second round of voting, and then the motion would be made again new.
Yes, that is correct. All right, so first step, I need someone who voted in the affirmative on the original general plan motion to move to reconsider the motion.
I'll move to reconsider the motion.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, so this is to reconsider the motion. Commissioner Arnett.
Yes. I guess we want to reconsider the motion.
Yes, we do. Yes.
Commissioner DeLay.
Yes.
Commissioner Kearns.
Yes.
Commissioner McGrath.
Yes.
Commissioner Simnani.
Yes.
I will vote yes as well. So we are now reconsidering the original motion, which, in order to make a new replacement motion, needs to fail. So, we don't need a motion or a second because we already voted to reconsider. Commissioner Barnett.
No.
Commissioner Cornell, Commissioner DeLay.
No.
Commissioner Kearns.
No.
Commissioner McGrath.
I'm sorry, can you clarify what we are voting on?
We are reconsidering the original motion that has determined to be defective because of the incorrect chapter reference. So in order to correct that, we need to make that motion fail, and a new motion will be made with the correct chapter reference.
Okay, so yes. I support the,
Well, you already supported the reconsideration, so now, if I may advise, you would want to vote no on the motion as originally made, so a new one can be made.
no.
All right. Commissioner Sinani.
No.
I will vote no as well. So the original motion fails. Now we need to make the new replacement motion for the general plan amendment with the correct chapter reference.
You're on.
I motion that we approve.
Can you talk into the mic?
Hold on. Give that page back. Thank you.
I motion that we approve the following, that we approve Plan PLN PCM 2026-0008.
Right? Is that right? Yes. Okay.
Recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah, a positive
That we
recommendation.
recommend approval with the following conditions. The consideration factors, in reviewing the proposal to modify the general plan, the Planning Commission and the City Council should consider, but are not limited to, the following factors. First, the proposal is consistent with the citywide policy. Second, the proposal is consistent with the goals, policies, or implementation actions of the general plan, including applicable element plans. 3, a significant change has occurred that warrants the creation of a new plan or an update to the adopted plan. 4, the goals, policies, or implementation actions of the plan to be amended have been achieved and are no longer relevant or capable of addressing the current issues or needs of the neighborhood or the city, and are no longer aligned with these policies or citywide plans.
And that is section 19.07.
That is section 19.06.070B.
Second.
All right. Okay, we have a motion. It has been seconded. We'll have a roll call vote. Commissioner Barnett.
No.
Commissioner DeLay.
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Kearns.
No.
Commissioner McGrath.
Yes.
Commissioner Semnani.
Yes.
And I will vote yes as well. Motion passes. Thank you for bearing with us on that. With that, that is the end of our items for the public hearing. We will close the public hearing and move into our work session, which is item number 4 on the agenda. Where did Commissioner Babs go?
I think we're still a quorum, though.
I think we, yeah, okay. All right. The Liberty Park Cultural Landscape Report and Vision Plan and Memory Grove Park Cultural Landscape Report and Preservation Maintenance Plan, presented by staff member Catherine Sontag.
Good evening. We will try to make this brief. Tonight we are reporting on the Memory Grove Park and Freedom Trail Cultural Landscape Report draft. We're at about 30% and giving updates for the Liberty Park Cultural Landscape Report that is about 95%. I'll turn the time over to Tina Bishop and Kelly Ream, who are our consultants from Mundus Bishop.
Good evening. I'm Kelly Ream with Mundus Bishop, as Catherine mentioned. So tonight we'll be sharing just a quick update on the Memory Grove CLR and maintenance plan, really focusing the majority of our time on Liberty Park. So as Catherine mentioned, kind of where we are in the process are that we have just submitted the 30% draft, and as we're moving forward, we're developing treatment recommendations based on those initial findings. And as we're developing those recommendations, we're also working on the maintenance plan. The maintenance plan is specifically addressing kind of the next 10 years of projects in the pipeline, also some items for urgent repair that have been identified through the CIP process. Notably, some of those include the rotary steps, and then, of course, items like the sandstone sidewalks and Zucker Fountain. So similar to the Liberty Park CLR, the process starts off with identifying the historical context and physical development of the landscape. We then assess the condition of the cultural landscape along with an analysis of integrity. That's all included in the 30% draft that was shared with you. And our next steps are those treatment recommendations, looking at recommendations by landscape characteristic. So we kicked off the process in the fall. Over the winter, we started developing the historical context and the existing condition through the winter. And, as I mentioned before, we're now diving into the recommendations. This is more of an internal planning process where it's public notification. And then throughout the process, we're having coordination with our technical advisory committee. And then, of course, updating you all throughout the process. And then we'll be finishing up this fall, both with the cultural landscape report and maintenance plan. So the item we really hope to focus our discussion today with you all was the period of significance. I think, it's an interesting history to look at. It dates back to the settlement of the city, one of the first campsites, and then it's kind of this evolution of, the roads that were going up the valley, connecting to more of those industrial uses and then the neighborhood, and then the dedication of the parkland along the creek there, really capitalizing on the natural resources and the views to the city. And then, it's tied to the World War I, kind of a national effort to commemorate lives lost and also the sacrifices. And it's exciting to see how the community came together to really, designate a space in the city to commemorate those events. And then, it started with planting of memorial groves and really evolved into the Gold Star Mothers rallying for, more of a substantial monument that would be around more permanence. And, that concept for the memorials really expanded as, different wars occurred. So the period of significance we're recommending is 1902 to 1982. And what that captures is the dedication of the parkland in 1902. And it ends with 1982, and that really captures elements both from the early parks movement, City Beautiful movement, through the modernist movement. Most notably, there's the modernist Zucker Memorial Fountain in the park. And those all kind of, are the commemorative structures and features of the park. It's important to note that, this recommended period of significance is a little different than the period of significance for the City Creek Historic District. That district period of significance is 1875 to 1924. We're recommending a period that's a little bit longer, 60 years longer, to capture those subsequent memorials that were placed. That 1924 date really doesn't capture the commemorative association of the park. And I think this is something that, similar to Liberty Park, we'll have discussions with the SHPO too about this recommended period of significance. So in being respectful of everybody's time, I did want to see if there are any questions about the period of significance or any of the preliminary findings, and then I'll dive into Liberty Park. All right.
I have a question. So how did these two very separate properties become lumped into the same plan?
That's a good point. So this is actually two different plans. So tonight we're providing an update on the Memory Grove Park CLR, and that just kicked off. And then we're also providing an update on Liberty Park CLR and Vision Plan. And with those, we are at the 95%. So we're kind of wrapping up those projects. We presented them to the public last night at an open house, and then we're hoping to get on the City Council agenda next month to present the final.
Thank you.
Yep. So just as a reminder of Liberty Park, so this is the cultural landscape report and then also the vision plan. So it's a bit broader in scope than Memory Grove Park, which is narrower and really looking at maintenance, that this is a longer term, more 20-year master plan document. And these plans are really the outcome of the 2022 system-wide master plan for the city, Parks and Rec. So we kicked off the process for Liberty Park back in 2024. And throughout the process, we've had public input along the way, both with the community at large and then also the Community Advisory Committee and Technical Advisory Committees. Last summer, we also kicked off the visioning process, and we have been developing recommendations in the CLR and the vision plan in tandem, making sure that recommendations for preservation and future use speak to each other. Which I just want to acknowledge that the city is forward-thinking and thinking about that approach. A lot of times, these plans are done in isolation, so I really commend the city for taking that approach. Just a reminder, in the past we've shared what the period of significance is. We're looking at a period of significance of 1882 to 1970. This captures the development of the park up to the addition of more modern features like Rice Pavilion. Liberty Park is significant as one of the earliest parks in Salt Lake City and also the city of Utah. It also has these national ties to the early parks movement and City Beautiful movements. And those are all ideas that were then incorporated to other parks throughout Salt Lake. And I think that one of the exciting things about the park is that, from a cultural landscape point of view, we always talk about very specific things. And when we talk to the community about, what they enjoy about the park and what makes Liberty Park, they come at it from a cultural landscape point of view, where they talk about the tree-lined walks, the tree-lined roads. They talk about the open meadows, the groves of trees, and the vistas, including the view you see here to the Wasatch Range. So what we've heard from the community is really this desire to preserve Liberty Park as the central gathering space of the city. They want to see it enhanced both for the safety and access for all. There's really this value of the trees, both preserving the urban canopy and also ensuring that we're proactively planning for the canopy so that it's there for future generations. We've heard loud and clear, and I think one update that you'll see in the draft that we shared with you all of the vision plan is really putting an emphasis on maintenance and upkeep of existing infrastructure before diving into some of the signature projects that I'll share today. So that was great to hear from the community and something that we're reflecting in our recommendations. So for Liberty Park, we are recommending a rehabilitation approach, preserving the historic character of the park while also allowing for contemporary additions to provide for accessibility and new uses, really to enable the park to continue to evolve. So what has evolved from all these conversations with the public and the city is this vision for preserving Liberty Park as the central gathering place, but also incorporating elements of resiliency, so making it more sustainable, so incorporating things like water-wise landscapes and different strategies to ensure that, that the landscape you see remains in the future. So as I mentioned, in the vision plan, we do have chapters on implementation and maintenance needs. So really addressing, what the recommended treatments are for different historic features that you see throughout the park. A good example of that is, the historic stone arbors. So that we do have, those prioritized along with cost estimates and the recommended action. Today, I'll focus on some of the larger signature projects. And what makes these the signature projects is they really address the repair of historic features or patterns in the park, and also incorporate, evolving park uses or community needs, those ideas of resiliency, and they also leverage related planning initiatives or projects that might be underway. So the first project is the concept for Liberty Lake. I think one of the exciting things about looking through the historic images of Liberty Park is seeing, images of people walking around the lake and interacting with it. This is an exciting opportunity to repair the connections. In the 80s, the berms were placed along the lake, and there's no longer that close loop along the lake. So the vision plan recommends establishing, an accessible route, which would include portions of boardwalks where the berm, prohibits the addition of a trail, and also incorporating overlooks so that you can interact and, see the wildlife more, and also enhancing the riparian plantings along the lake, both for habitat and water quality. In addition to the repair of historic patterns, looking at historic maps, there was this strong connection from the northeast corner of the park down to Liberty Lake, which was the site of the historic bandstand. So one recommendation we're making is reestablishing that connection from that northeast corner down to the lake. That connection, both physical and visual, was altered by the addition of the mound in the 80s. So to reestablish that connection, we looked at cutting into the hills that's there now, the mound. So we've heard, don't take away the mound. It's a well-loved community feature. So instead, emphasizing it. So on the north side, there's an opportunity to perhaps create a gathering space and maybe some elements of hillside play. Some of the neighbors brought up that, if you live towards the south, all the play is to the north, that it's an opportunity for more equitable access to play by having a feature to the south. There's also an opportunity that along the lake, we could reestablish an area at the site of the historic bandstand. It was really interesting to read through the history of the park and see that there was this tradition of Shakespeare in the park and, musical performances. So if there was a small space along the lake there, it would celebrate the history of the park and also provide space for, right now there's yoga, there's the drum circle and other small musical events. So more community-based events along the lake there. One existing initiative that's underway is planning at the greenhouse. So in the CLR, we have made the determination that the greenhouse is a non-contributing feature. Throughout the period of significance, it was added, modified, and really changed in form and character several times. It's currently not used. It was a few years ago determined, not safe, yeah. So that is certainly a consideration, is that there's a desire to make it a functioning greenhouse. and that would likely require the removal and replacement of it to meet both building accessibility and then also just spatial requirements for plant propagation. So there'd be an opportunity to leverage that if that replacement does occur, and when that the exterior of the building could be planted with more gardens and native plantings, and it could serve almost as an incubator for the city, where other parks could replicate, plant palettes that work well, really emphasizing that idea of water-wise planting and habitat in parks. I know in our previous meetings I've talked a bit about the circulation patterns. The vision plan looks at reestablishing some of those historic routes. I think one of the exciting things about being in the park is that you'll often find yourself in the middle of a meadow and see that there's trees. In our research, we found out that where there is an alley but no walk, there was a historic walk. So we were looking at reestablishing some of those historic connections that also addresses community concerns associated with safety, bringing more activation into some of those less active parts of the park. And then, of course, another element is looking at those gateways at the north and south of the park and making it more accessible for all modes. On the topic of circulation, in the southwest corner of the park, when the road was widened, it really cut into the park. So we looked at different options for creating more of a buffer between the trail and the road. We've studied and we found that if in one segment we're able to take away, it's about 30 parking spaces and do a road diet. So in that one stretch, having one lane of traffic, we're able to then reestablish the historic alley of trees that was along Constitution Ave and the trail, and also bring the trail farther away from the road so that there's more of a buffer, so it's more safe and accessible. And then, of course, vegetation is something I've talked about with all of these. We've been working closely with park staff to look at, kind of a vegetation typology to make the park more water-wise, so to reduce the amount of water that's used, but provide functional lawn where it is needed for active park uses, but then also incorporate typologies that will enhance, wildlife habitat, bird habitat, and introduce more native species into the park while still maintaining the historic character of the park. Again, one of the really interesting aspects of Liberty Park is to look through the historic images and see the prominence of gardens throughout the park, ranging from formal rose gardens to these rock kind of naturalistic outcroppings. So it's exciting to see the community really supported this idea for celebrating kind of the horticultural history of the site. And then, of course, urban forestry are kind of key recommendations. Trees are a topic that comes up with everybody. So what we've looked at is we worked closely with urban forestry to develop really tree-specific strategies. So how do we ensure that we're planning for the future of the evergreen and deciduous alleys? I think one thing that pops out in everybody's mind when they think about Liberty Park is that central alley and the deciduous trees that line it, the Fremont cottonwoods. So coming up with recommendations for how do we ensure that we establish a mature canopy so that you don't have that stark, absence of the shade. Thank you. And then, I've thrown out the term resiliency and sustainability quite a bit. So what we did is we looked at kind of current use patterns, and we looked at, the 20-year build-out and measured the benefits of, if there is full implementation of those landscape typologies and tree canopy, what are the benefits? So looking at the decrease in annual water use, but then also benefits associated with carbon sequestration, and just converting from turf to more water-wise landscape. So as I mentioned earlier, our next steps are we will be making some final updates to the vision plan based on feedback we received from the TAC, the CAC, and then the public last night. And then we're hoping to get on the council agenda next month and present the final vision plan and CLR to them.
I have a couple questions.
Please.
Good. Water-wise, super important. What feeds the lakes? I'm sorry, that's random, but
Is your mic on?
is my mic? Yeah, my mic's on.
Sorry. Hi.
What feeds the lake? Where does the water come from?
So it's a combination of, there's the stormwater function, and then there's also, is it immigration and...
Red Butte?
Red Butte, yeah.
So are we worried that because of the drought, the lake is going to become like half of it over there? Are we looking at that in the future?
Currently, we have funding to dredge the lake, so we're
Good.
actually making it deeper.
Good.
To help preserve the quality of the water and keep the algae at bay. I have not heard discussion of that. I don't know that there has been a challenge with it being full thus far.
Right.
But yeah, that's something to consider.
Since we all talk about Lake Mead, Lake Powell, lakes, water,
Mhm.
yeah. The two things I've heard when I've discussed this with some friends the other day was there currently is no parking. Are we going to start charging or limiting parking, like 2-hour meters or something over there? And this past weekend, there were 12 booths on the east side set up. Are those permitted? Are we going to see more of those in this plan? What are we doing with parking and booths?
Those are great questions. I don't know that we discussed that so much in these plans, but most of those during the weekend are not permitted, and we're very aware of that issue. It's kind of a different, not my pay grade, but yeah, we need to address that.
But also the parking.
Yeah.
Because if I want to go to the park, I can't park anywhere. It's always full, it seems, in the times I want to go. But my friends were saying, why don't they just put in meters and limit it for a couple of hours?
Yeah.
Anyway, those are my only two comments I heard from anybody.
I actually got the chance to see some of these plans. I just happened to be in the park. Was that last night? And so I got a chance to look at some of the plans, and I was impressed with with what's being done, like water-wise plants in areas that we don't really need grass, that sort of thing. I like a lot of it. The one comment I wanted to make that just sort of struck me that I hadn't thought about before is whenever I spend time in Liberty Park, and Liberty Park, of course, is a wonderful space, but without even being consciously aware of it, I realize it feels fragmented to me. The park feels very fragmented. There's like a piece here, there's a piece here. And the historic photographs that I've seen of the park, it was originally laid out in the 1880s, I think, by, I don't remember who designed it, but sort of on, trying to copy sort of Frederick Law Olmsted and his, Central Park kind of idea. And it had a much more unified feel to it. And then over the years, as new elements have been introduced and old elements have been taken away, it has become what feels like fragmented. And I just wonder if has been any thought about how to unify find ways to unify the park more in your planning. Yeah, though that's the question. I mean, I've seen the old photographs where they had like they had like, oh, I don't know, bridges and stuff made out of logs and all that. And there was that kind of theme through the park, and there were trails, and there just wasn't as much going on in the park. And so there's a lot more going on, but I do always have that feeling like I'm moving from one sort of chunk to a different chunk, and they're all lovely, but they're not tied together. So I'm wondering what if you guys have looked at that kind of issue.
So the winning entry for Liberty Park, the first competition, it was, I can't remember his first name, but he was a young, and he had traveled to New York and visited Olmstedian parks, and he came back, and if you see his plan, he copied. So I think that, we are looking at bringing back that continuity because, when he established the design, it was, you had Constitution Drive where it was that loop road, and then there was the interior network of the pedestrian routes. So that's where, when I was saying when we're in the park and we see those connections, there was a strong east-west connection, and then, bringing back the connection to north to south. So we are looking at, more continuity to get around the existing areas, and then also recommending, wayfinding and, just continuity in routes. I think, the one challenge that you just mentioned is, as the park evolved, there was the zoo, there was Tracy Aviary, and those used to be more porous. We've got Princess Alice in the report now. I went back and I added her. So, that is a consideration as we're looking at, how do we maintain that continuity so that you don't, just get to the Tracy Avery area and feel like, you have to go left or right and you can't go straight, but really, creating a continuous route around it.
I'm just really pleased that you're thinking in those terms because I think that will really enhance the park. Those kind of, taking those kind of things into consideration.
I have a question, if you'll humor me for a moment. Parks in Paris, and overseas it seems they use that hard-packed, fine-grained stone, whereas here we always have paved paths. And I was always curious about why that is. Is it an ADA issue, a cost issue, a maintenance issue? What's the driver of that? It's not pea gravel. It's sharper and more packed.
Yeah. Kind of, are you like what's up at the Capitol, like the chat path around?
It's similar to that.
Yeah. I think concrete is easier, clearly, to put in and maintain. Chat would be a lovely option for many of these secondary paths. There are ADA considerations if you're not maintaining in terms of compaction and even a binding agent for the chat. So that's something that needs care. So we do have it in some of our parks. We do use it.
Okay.
We could use it more. It's wonderful because it's permeable and doesn't have the same heat refraction and all of that. So yeah, it's a great material. I think it's also education for maintenance staff, how to maintain it, what that looks like on an annual, monthly schedule. But yeah, I agree. I prefer that material to concrete for many paths.
I was always just curious.
Yeah.
It seems much more park-like than a concrete sidewalk.
Yeah. I think also with our climate and the ease of moving mowers and snow removal machines, it makes it a little more complicated. Yeah.
Okay.
When I go to the park, which is often, lately, the last year or so, I get a real sense of inhospitability towards the wild, unhoused humans. And, and I think that I'm pretty discouraged with the elimination of facilities and resources for the general people. And I find that is troublesome to watch and unwelcoming for me. I mean, people need a place to be.
That's kind of something that we've heard echoed throughout the community meetings, is that people want to feel safe, but they don't want to force people out of the park. That, you know, I respect that the community really does see it as the community gathering space, and it is for everybody, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
All right, that being the last item on our agenda, I will adjourn tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Okay.